Good morning, my dear students. Welcome to the second video on the series of videos based on Arms and the Man by George Bernard Shaw. So I hope you have watched the first video where we have discussed about George Bernard Shaw's works and features of his plays. So today in this video, I would like to introduce the play Arms and the Man to you and give you some background information about the play. So Arms and the Man, there's a subtitle. The subtitle is a romantic comedy in 3 acts. So that insinuates some things to us, that it is a comedy, it is romantic in nature, and that it is in 3 acts. Let us see whether it holds true, whether it is romantic or not. Let's look at the title. This title is actually taken from the source of the title is the Roman poet Virgil's poem, the Aeneid, written in 19 BC. In that particular poem, Virgil writes, "Of arms and the man I sing." In this context, Virgil is actually praising war. But Shaw he takes this title, Arms and the Man, and he uses it to ridicule the romantic idea of war. He attacks the romantic idea of war. So romantic is actually a problematic word. Most often people associate romantic with romantic love. It doesn't necessarily have to mean romantic love or anything like that. It could also mean other blown up sentiments like patriotism, heroism, nationalism, etc. All these come under the purview of romantic, the word romantic. Romantic എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ സാധാരണ നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നത് പോലെ പ്രേമം പ്രണയം മാത്രമല്ല അതിനകത്ത് വരുന്നത്, നമ്മുടെ മറ്റ് സെന്റിമെന്റ്സ്, അതായത് പേട്രിയോട്ടിസം, ഹീറോയിസം, അതുപോലത്തെ സെന്റിമെന്റ്സ് എല്ലാം തന്നെ നമ്മൾ റൊമാൻറ്റിക് സെന്റിമെന്റ്സ് എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. സോ ഷോ ഇസ് ആക്ച്വലി employing the title in an ironic fashion. Even though he says in his subtitle that this is a romantic comedy in 3 acts, he is actually attacking the romantic idea of war. So is it really romantic? We'll have to read and find out ourselves. So even in our country, war is something which is celebrated as heroic and patriotic. Losing one's life at the battlefield is still considered very heroic and romantic. That particular person becomes a hero in the minds of the people. But Shaw is against this idea of romanticizing war. This is what we see in Arms and the Man. It was produced in 1894 and published in 1898. And this play, when it was first staged, it was extremely successful, and it raised Shaw's reputation as one of the greatest wits in London drama scene. So that assures us that this is a witty and funny play. So it must be a comedy, right? So let's see what Arms and the Man is all about. This is actually a scene from the first act, which I have shown here in this picture. So for you to get an idea about the stage composition and all, let's move on to the historical background of Arms and the Man. So it is set in the region of Balkans. So what is Balkans? So this is the name of the region which includes modern day Greece, Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Romania. All these countries. See, in this map I have provided you all the details. So this region, it was actually under the Turkish Empire, the Ottoman Empire. They were very powerful in the 18th century, but their stronghold was weakening in the 19th century. And the great powers in Europe, there were 3 countries, Russia, Germany, and Austria. They planned to defeat the Turks. And after defeating, their plan was to divide and rule. Division on the basis of religion, language, and ethnicity. So even though this region, the Balkans, it wasn't divided strictly into all these countries. There were certain divisions, but it wasn't rigid, so to say. But still, you can say that the Balkan region, it was a multicultural, multilinguistic, multi-ethnic region. People belonging to this region spoke in different languages, belonged to different religions and ethnicities. So these great powers of Europe decided to divide these into different countries on the basis of religion, language, and ethnicities. So our particular play, Arms and the Man, is set during a very brief war between Serbia and Bulgaria. So this is Serbia and this is Bulgaria, neighboring countries. So there was a brief Serbo-Bulgarian war in November 1885. So it was during this time that our play is set. Our setting is during Serbo-Bulgarian War of November 1885. And Serbia was provided support by Austro-Hungarian Empire. Serbia was backed by Austria, so to say. Serbia's backup എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞത് ഓസ്ട്രിയ ആയിരുന്നു. ഓസ്ട്രിയ അന്നത്തെ one of the greatest powers ആയിരുന്നു. And Bulgaria was backed by Russians. Serbia by Austrians, Bulgaria by Russians. And another country was also very important in this particular war, Switzerland. Because Switzerland provided a large number of mercenaries for war. People who wanted to take financial advantage of the war situation were from Switzerland. അവർക്ക് പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് പ്രതിപത്തിയൊന്നുമില്ല ഏതൊരു രാജ്യത്തിനോടും. They just fought for money. Whichever army paid them better, they fought for that army. And another important incident which we have to learn is the Battle of Slivnitsa. So it is the Battle of Slivnitsa, took place on 19th November 1885. This was when Serbia declared war on Bulgaria. So Bulgaria was backed by Russians at that point of time. But when Serbia declared war on Bulgaria, the Russians called back the Russian officers. And Bulgaria had to fight the war herself without Russian officers. But miraculously, Bulgaria was victorious in this battle of Slivnitsa. അപ്പോൾ സെർബിയ ബൾഗേറിയക്കെതിരെ ഒരു വാർ ഡിക്ലെയർ ചെയ്തു. സെർബിയയ്ക്ക് ഓസ്ട്രിയയുടെ ബാക്കപ്പ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷെ വാർ ഡിക്ലെയർ ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് ബൾഗേറിയ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന റഷ്യൻസ് അവരുടെ ഓഫീസേഴ്സിനെ വിത്ഡ്രോ ചെയ്തു. എന്നിട്ടും ബൾഗേറിയൻസിന് ഒരു മിറാക്യുലസ് വിക്ടറി ഈ വാറിൽ ലഭിച്ചു, ഈ ബാറ്റിൽ ലഭിച്ചു. സോ ദാറ്റ് വാസ് ദ ബാറ്റിൽ ഓഫ് സ്ലിവ്നിറ്റ്സ held on 19th November 1885. So this is the historical background behind the play. Before going further, I would like to talk briefly about the structure of army in those times. There were 3 combat units. Infantry, who fought on foot. These were foot soldiers. They used tools like swords, bayonets, etc. And then there was cavalry. Cavalry fought on horseback. Look at this. These are foot soldiers. These are infantry and this is a cavalry. Okay. Both of them are using swords and pikes and all. Okay. And then there is artillery. Artillery means they operate rifles, cannons and heavy duty machinery. So these are the 3 combat units: infantry, cavalry and artillery. And the various kinds of weapons which were used for war during those times were longbow, musket, rifle, field gun, pike, sword, bayonet, etc. And for any battle to be successful, a wonderful combination of these combat units should be engaged. Ideally, artillery should start firing. Followed by the firing, a line of infantry must charge. And after the firing, infantry will use swords and bayonets. And cavalry, their purpose was to seek intelligence to prevent surprise attacks and all. So, ഏതൊരു ബാറ്റിലിൻ്റെ സക്സസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഈ 3 യൂണിറ്റ്സിനെയും കറക്റ്റായിട്ട് യൂട്ടിലൈസ് ചെയ്യണം. അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു കോമ്പിനേഷനിൽ യൂട്ടിലൈസ് ചെയ്യണം. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു കോമൺ വാർ ടാക്ടിക് എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ആദ്യം ആർട്ടിലറി ഫയർ ചെയ്യും. അവരുടെ കയ്യിലുള്ള വെപ്പൺസ് വെച്ച് ഫയർ ചെയ്യും. കുറച്ച് ഒന്ന് എതിർ സൈന്യം ക്ഷീണിച്ചു എന്ന് ഉറപ്പ് വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇൻഫൻട്രി, അതായത് ഫുട്ട് സോൾജേഴ്സ്, അവരുടെ കയ്യിലുള്ള വാളും മറ്റുള്ള ആയുധങ്ങളൊക്കെ വെച്ചിട്ട് ഫൈറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യും. കാവലറി, അതായത് ഹോഴ്സ് ബാക്ക് സോൾജേഴ്സ്, അവരുടെ മെയിൻ ഉദ്ദേശം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഇന്റലിജൻസ് സീക്കേഴ്സ് ആയിരുന്നു. ഈ സ്പൈ വർക്കും കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെയാണ്. അതായത് സർപ്രൈസ് ആയിട്ട് അവരെ ആരും അറ്റാക്ക് ചെയ്യാതിരിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി അങ്ങനെയുള്ള വിവരങ്ങൾ ശേഖരിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളതായിരുന്നു കാവലറിയുടെ അന്നത്തെ ഒരു പേർപ്പസ് എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ. ഓക്കെ, നമുക്ക് ആർമിയെ പല രീതിയിൽ ഡിവൈഡ് ചെയ്യാം. ആർമി കെൻ ബി ഡിവൈഡഡ് ഇൻ ടു ലാർജ് റെജിമെന്റ്സ് ഫോർ കമാൻഡ് ആൻഡ് ഡിസ്ട്രിബ്യൂഷൻ. Regiments are divided into brigades. Brigades are divided into battalions. And finally, the smallest unit is companies. And this is the hierarchy of command in the army. Private ആണ് ഏറ്റവും, this is the smallest rank, private. Larger than private is corporal, then sergeant, lieutenant, captain, major, colonel, general. This is the highest rank. Okay, so you have to know the structure of army before we go ahead with reading the play. That is why I decided to provide this information to you. Okay, let's move on to Act 1. In this particular video, I'm only discussing stage directions, because we mentioned in the previous video that George Bernard Shaw was very particular about stage directions. He provided long stage directions. He even tried to propagate some ideas through his stage directions. That is why it is very essential to read his stage directions. So I have the book in front of me and I am reading the stage directions to you. If you have the book, I advise you to open it and follow my reading. And I have also provided some points here for your easy understanding. So I'm going to read from Act 1, stage directions. Night. A lady's bedchamber in Bulgaria, in a small town near Dragoman Pass, late in November in the year 1885. Through an open window with a little balcony, a peak of the Balkans, wonderfully white and beautiful in the starlit snow, seems quite close at hand, though it is really miles away. The interior of the room is not like anything to be seen in the west of Europe. It is half rich Bulgarian, half cheap Viennese. Okay, so first itself we get an idea about the setting. It is night time and the scene is set in a lady's bedchamber in Bulgaria. ബൾഗേറിയയിലുള്ള ഒരു യുവതിയുടെ ബെഡ്റൂമിലാണ് ഈ ഒരു Act 1 സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നത് നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലായി. ആൻഡ് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് നിയർ ഇൻ എ സ്മോൾ ടൗൺ നിയർ ഡ്രാഗമൺ പാസ്. Okay, so this is actually the setting of first act. It is a lady's bedroom. There is a table, a chair, a bed is very important, and you look at the curtains and all, it is indicative of that this is a lady's room. Girlish curtains are used. And then this is called a Turkish ottoman. It is a Turkish ottoman. This kind of a cushioned chair is called a Turkish ottoman. And then there is you can also see a little table. It's actually not precise. We'll see what it is really. Okay, let me just read. So ഒരു ലേഡിയുടെ ബെഡ്റൂമാണ് ബൾഗേറിയയിൽ ഡ്രാഗൺ പാസിന്റെ അടുത്തുള്ള ഒരു ചെറിയ ടൗണിൽ. And you can also see the scenic beauty of Balkan mountain range. It is visible through an open window with a small balcony. You see this door. It might open to a balcony. And from the balcony, it is the scenic beauty of Balkan mountain ranges it is visible. Okay. Now let's look at the interiors. The interior of the room is it is unlike any room which we can see in the Western Europe. It is half rich Bulgarian, half cheap Viennese. So the materials in the room are a mix between cheap and expensive. There are a lot of expensive materials in the room. At the same time, there are a lot of cheap material too. So that suggests that the family wasn't rich until recently. So it is suggestive of the family's recent acquiring of wealth and climbing up the social ladder. ഇപ്പോൾ അവരുടെ വീട്ടിൽ ഈ ബെഡ്റൂമിൽ ഒരേ സമയത്ത് ചീപ്പ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള സാധനങ്ങളും എക്സ്പെൻസീവ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള സാധനങ്ങളും ഉണ്ട്. അതിൻ്റെ അർത്ഥം ഇവര് പുത്തം പണക്കാരാണ്, അങ്ങനെയാണല്ലോ പറഞ്ഞത്. റീസെൻ്റ്ലി ആണ് അവർ സോഷ്യൽ ലാഡർ ക്ലൈം ചെയ്ത് ഈ ഒരു നിലയ്ക്കും വിലയ്ക്കും ഒക്കെ എത്തിയത്. they haven't replaced their old cheap stuff yet. Let's look. Okay. Above the head of the bed, which stands against a little wall cutting off the left-hand corner of the room, is a painted wooden shrine, blue and gold, with an ivory image of Christ and a light hanging before it in a pierced metal ball suspended by 3 chains. So that is another item in the room, a wooden shrine, a painted wooden shrine with a Christ image. That tells that this is a Christian household. ഒരു ക്രിസ്ത്യൻ വീടാണെന്ന് നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലായി. Then, the principal seat placed towards the other side of the room and opposite the window is a Turkish ottoman. Again, the most important seat in the room is a Turkish ottoman. This is a Turkish ottoman. Okay. The counterpane and hangings of the bed, the window curtains, the little carpet, and all the ornamental textile fabrics in the room are oriental and gorgeous. The paper on the walls is occidental and paltry. Again, I told you this room is a mix of cheap things and expensive things. So I have provided a list of the expensive items and the cheap items here. So the expensive items are the bed, carpet, ornamental textile fabrics. There is a wash stand and a very expensive mirror and all. All these are expensive items, but even though the room is filled with these expensive items, the wallpaper of the room looks very dull and cheap. It looks occidental, western. All these other items, the bed, carpet, and the fabric, and all these things, they look oriental, like somebody exported it from the east. Eastil ninnu export ചെയ്തു വന്ന സാധനങ്ങൾ പോലെ തോന്നുന്നു. Again, another cheap item you can find in the room is a common pine wood dressing table. So we can assume that this is the dressing table actually. This is the dressing table on which a candle is lit. Okay. Alright, let's read the rest. The wash stand against the wall on the side nearest the ottoman and the window consists of an enameled iron basin with a pail beneath it in a painted metal frame and a single towel on the rail at the side. The dressing table between the bed and the window is a common pine table covered with a cloth of many colors with an expensive toilet mirror on it. Okay, again we can see that there is a wash stand. It seems to be an expensive enamel wash stand, and above it there is an expensive toilet mirror too. And then another thing is there is a dressing table. It is a very common pine wood dressing table, but it is covered by cloth which is expensive. ചീപ്പ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ടേബിളിന്റെ പുറത്ത് എക്സ്പെൻസീവ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു തുണി ഇട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് ആക്ച്വലി എ മിക്സ് ഓഫ് ചീപ്പ് ആൻഡ് എക്സ്പെൻസീവ് സ്റ്റഫ്. Then let's see what else is going on. The door is on the side nearest the bed, and there is a chest of drawers between. This chest of drawers is also covered by a variegated native cloth, and on it there is a pile of paper-backed novels, a box of chocolate creams, and a miniature easel with a large photograph of an extremely handsome officer whose lofty bearing and magnetic glance can be felt even from the portrait. Now we get to say that there is another piece of furniture. It is a chest of drawers. Okay, there is a chest of drawers. In this picture you can't see a chest of drawers, but if you zoom in you can actually see there is a photograph here, a little photograph, and this table must be used instead of the chest of drawers. ചിലപ്പോൾ ഈ നാടകം സ്റ്റേജ് ചെയ്ത സമയത്ത് അവർക്ക് ചെസ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ഡ്രോവേഴ്സ് കിട്ടിയിട്ടുണ്ടാവില്ല, അതിന് പകരമായിരിക്കും ഈ ചെറിയ ടേബിൾ യൂസ് ചെയ്തത്. സോ വാട്ട് ഈസ് ഓൺ ദിസ് ചെസ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ഡ്രോവേഴ്സ്? ദർ ഇസ് എ പൈൽ ഓഫ് പേപ്പർ ബാക്ക് നോവൽസ്, romantic novels that says something about the person living in this particular room. വളരെ റൊമാൻറ്റിക് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഡിസ്പൊസിഷൻ ഉള്ള ഒരു പെൺകുട്ടി ആയിരിക്കാം ഈ റൂമിൽ താമസിക്കുന്നത്. Then there is a box of chocolate creams. Obviously, she likes to eat in her bed, reading romantic novels. How very romantic, right? And then, in addition to all that, there is a mini photo frame with a photograph of an extremely handsome officer. So, why would she keep a photograph of a person? It suggests that she is engaged to this person or that she is in love with this person. So we get to know some facts about this family and the occupant of this room without seeing anybody, just from looking at the room. That is how particular George Bernard Shaw was about his stagecraft. Okay, the room is lighted by a candle on the chest of drawers and another one on the dressing table with a box of matches beside it. So the source of light in the room is there are only two candles in the room. One is on the chest of drawers and one is on the dressing table. Even here, there is a candle here and there is a candle on this table. Okay. Okay, let's continue with the stage directions. The window is hinged doorwise and stands wide open. Outside, a pair of wooden shutters opening outwards also stands open. On the balcony, a young lady, intensively conscious of the romantic beauty of the night and of the fact that her own youth and beauty are part of it, is gazing at the snowy Balkans. She is in her nightgown, well covered by a long mantle of furs, worth on a moderate estimate about 3 times the furniture of her room. So, we are looking at another part of the room now. There is an open window with wooden shutters. അപ്പോൾ തടിയുടെ ജനലുള്ള ഓപ്പൺ ഒരു വിൻഡോ like this. Okay, there is a wooden window. Even though this looks like a door, it's actually a window, suggestive of a window, we can say that. Okay, and over the window there is a small balcony. And there's a young lady standing in the balcony. She looks very romantic, very beautiful and young. She is gazing at this romantic spectacle of the Balkans. This is a picture of the Balkan mountains. So she is looking at a peak in the Balkans. It is very distant, but it seems very near. So that tells you something about the lady. What do you call a woman who is outside in the balcony looking at a distant sight that is beautiful? We can say that she is very romantic in nature. And let's look at what she is wearing. She is wearing a flimsy nightgown, a very transparent nightgown. But she is covered, she is wearing a fur cloak, a fur coat over the nightgown. ഈ ഒരു ക്ലോക്ക് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് എ കോട്ട് വിച്ച് ഗോസ് ഡൗൺ ടിൽ യുവർ ടോസ്. കാല് വരെ എത്തുന്ന ഒരു നീളൻ ഒരു പുതപ്പ് പോലത്തെ ഒരു സാധനമാണ് ഈ ഒരു ഫർ ക്ലോക്ക് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. And this is a very extremely expensive fur cloak. We can estimate that the worth of this fur cloak is that of 3 times the furniture in her room. We already know that some of the furniture in her room is extremely expensive, but the fur cloak is worth 3 times all the furniture in her room. So she is looking at the Balkans very romantically. She is aware of her youth and her beauty. She is also aware of the beauty of the Balkan mountain range. Her reverie is interrupted by her mother, Catherine Petkoff, a woman over 40, imperiously energetic with magnificent black hair and eyes, who might be a very splendid specimen of the wife of a mountain farmer, but is determined to be a Viennese lady, and to that end wears a fashionable tea gown on all occasions. So she is looking very romantically, dreamily at this spectacle. And her reverie means daydream or something like that, even though it is a night time now. So she is suddenly interrupted by her mother, Catherine Petkoff. So her name is Raina Petkoff. Her mother's name is Catherine Petkoff. She is described as a woman over 40, energetic, black hair and eyes. So she looks coarse enough to pass off as a farmer's wife in features and in disposition and all. But her clothes are very expensive. She wants to prove that she is rich now. So she wears a fashionable tea gown for all occasions. അടുക്കളയിൽ പോകാനാണെങ്കിൽ പോലും ഫാഷനബിൾ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഗൗണൊക്കെ ഇട്ടേ പുള്ളിക്കാരി പോവാറുണ്ട്. കാരണം പുള്ളിയുടെ ലുക്ക് അത്ര പോരാ. ലുക്കിൽ പുള്ളിയെ കണ്ടു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരു കർഷകന്റെ ഭാര്യയാണെന്നൊക്കെ തോന്നും. അതുകൊണ്ട് ആ ലുക്കൊന്ന് മാറ്റി പിടിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് പുള്ളിക്കാരി ഒരു വിയനീസ് ലേഡിയെ പോലെയാണ് ഡ്രസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. സോ ദിസ് ബ്രിങ്സ് us to the end of stage directions of Act 1. So I ask you to go through the stage directions once again. It was very important to discuss stage directions because we get very crucial ideas about this household and the occupant of the room just reading through the stage directions. And some of the furniture which he mentions here, these are also very important. For example, how many candles are lit in the room? 2 candles. What is the most important furniture piece in the room? This ottoman, for Turkish ottoman. So these are all details which will come handy later. That is why I pointed these out. So I hope you enjoyed this particular video and wait for my next video on this series. And I hope this was beneficial. Thank you so much for your attention. Bye.